was Al-Jassas, which is Arabic for the assassin. And according to Jordan Maxwell, Yoda is in fact a real character who the Freemasons actually believe in.
According to the reference works, there is a little spiritual entity that guides the world Freemasonry, and they call him Yoda. And in the reference works, you'll see this little creature with the pointed ears, and he's called Yoda. Yoda goes back to Judah, or Judah, which goes back into British Israel World Freemasonry.
Jesus Christ also makes an appearance in Star Wars as Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. Darth Vader, the infamous villain from Star Wars, was originally named Anakin Skywalker, and his life bears many similarities to the life of Jesus Christ. He was immaculately conceived.
Who was his father?
There was no father. I carried him, I gave birth, I raised him. I can't explain what happened.
Declared the chosen one, prophesied to come, powerful magical abilities, rejected by temple leaders, wants to preserve life using his magical abilities, storms a temple. If you're not with him, you're against him, and becomes the leader of a large army. And I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the lady George Lucas chose to play Darth Vader's mother, a Swedish actress named Pernilla August, also played as Mary in the made-for-TV movie Mary, Mother of Jesus in 1999, the very same year she first appeared in Star Wars. Christian Bale, who would later play as Batman, also played in the movie Mary, Mother of Jesus, playing as Jesus himself. Regardless of who played the part, it's clear who George Lucas had in mind when writing for Darth Vader. George Lucas's first full-length film was THX 1138. Akin to the setting Aldous Huxley's Brave New World takes place in, THX 1138 takes place in a dystopic police state where the citizens are medicated, under constant observation, and reproduction is tightly controlled. Named after its main character, THX 1138 was released in 1971 and describes a world where natural human emotions, like sexuality, are suppressed through a regimen of medications that's mandated and distributed by the state. The movie is about a nuclear technician who, like most, is emotionally inexperienced and emotionally dependent on machines instead of other people.
Yes.
I haven't been feeling very well myself.
Yes, I understand.
I don't know, maybe it's me.
Yes, fine.
I needed some Panura last night. I feel as if something
Excellent.
odd were happening to me. Something
Yes.
I can't understand.
Could you be more specific?
His roommate and future lover begin substituting his medication so that he, like her, will begin feeling emotions the medications are designed to inhibit. They begin a love affair and are arrested because of it. She ends up dead while he is sent to detention. He meets up with a couple of idiots and eventually escapes. The world described in the film is exactly the goal of the New World Order. For example, here's an excerpt from an interview of Aldous Huxley regarding his novel Brave New World.
But simply because the Brave New World pattern is probably a good deal more efficient than the other. That if you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, the state of servitude, the state of being, well, it seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy.
THX 1138 is very revealing, has decent special effects, and is very boring. So boring, in fact, that even those with good taste will find the car chase at the end refreshing. George Lucas both wrote and directed this movie. Another movie that gets its material from reality is Men in Black. Men in Black is about two law enforcement agents who work for a secret government agency responsible for regulating alien activity on Earth. It appears that much of the movie's content were inspired by John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies. John Keel was an early paranormal researcher who, in 1975, published a book called The Mothman Prophecies. The book's main focus were the events in a small town called Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1967, where countless UFO, giant bats, and men in black were reported. Here's a few excerpts from John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, and clips from the 2 Men in Black movies. Here's John Keel, commenting on how Men in Black always give themselves all too common names. UFO lore is populated with mysterious visitors claiming inordinately common names like Smith, Jones, Kelly, Allen, and Brown.
Yes, ma'am, I'm Special Agent Mannheim. This is Special Agent Black with the FBI. We'd like to talk to you about your visitor.
I'm Dr. Leo Manville, Department of Public Health. This is Dr. White.
I'm Sergeant Friday from the 26th Precinct.
Here's stories of people with lapses in memory after seeing a bright light. A young couple sprawled together in the backseat of an old jalopy on a deserted dirt road in the isolated back hills east of Ravenswood, West Virginia. It was starlit, moonless night in that spring of 1967, just warm enough so that the pair were able to strip to the buff comfortably. At about 10:30 p.m., a blinding bluish light poured in through the windows of the parked car. The next thing we knew, it was gone. We jumped into our clothes and got the hell out of there. Another funny thing, when we got into town, it was after 12:30. We couldn't figure it out. It seemed like we looked at that light for only a couple seconds, but somehow it must have taken 2 hours. If you review the thousands of UFO contact reports, you will find that many of them begin with the appearance of an entity holding some kind of flashlight, which is shown directly at the witnesses. In other instances, the entity approaches the witness and suddenly flashes a light at him, which causes paralysis. In some cases, witnesses are asked for curious things by peculiar people. Max's Kansas City is a famous watering hole for New York hip crowds. In the summer of 1967, an oddball character wandered into that restaurant, noted for its oddball clientele. He was tall and awkward, dressed in an ill-fitting black suit that seemed out of style. His chin came to a sharp point and his eyes bulged slightly, like thyroid eyes. He sat down in a booth and gestured to the waitress with his long, tapering finger. "Something to eat," he mumbled. The waitress handed him a menu. He stared at it uncomprehendingly, apparently unable to read. "Food," he said almost pleadingly. "How about a steak?" she offered. "Good." She brought him a steak with all the trimming. He stared at it for a long moment and then picked up his knife and fork, glancing around at the other diners. It was obvious he did not know how to handle the implement. "Did you hear of anyone, especially an Air Force officer, trying to drink Jell-O?" Mrs. Ralph Butler asked. "Well, that's what he did. He acted like he had never seen any before. He picked up the bowl and tried to drink it. I had to show him how to eat it with a spoon."
Sugar.
I've never seen sugar do that.
Give me sugar in water. More. More.
Many of the Men in Black sightings reported in the Mothman Prophecies depict them as moving awkwardly. From what I can get from him, he was looking for insurance. Only he kept saying he wanted trip insurance. He told her that he had also visited the office of the messenger. He spoke in the garbled, sing-song manner of so many of our weirdo visitors and moved in an unsteady, almost drunken way. There are many reports in the book about people with strange eye problems, bulging eyes, or eyes that are out of sync. Edward Christensen was interviewed by a Men in Black and says this: "His nose and mouth seemed relatively normal, but his eyes were large, protruding like thyroid eyes, and set wide apart. One eye appeared to have a cast, like a glass eye, and did not move in unison with his companions." The Cherokees have a tradition that when they migrated to Tennessee, they found the region inhabited by a weird race of white people, who were apparently quite civilized. They had one problem. Their eyes were very large and sensitive to light. They could only see at night. The fierce Indians ran these moony-eyed people out.
No smoking.
These eerie Men in Black gave everyone the creep, and even though they tried desperately to make others comfortable by grinning, even their grin